All right, we're going to take a look at lesson 1A.6 today. In this video, we're going to talk about midpoints again, which we talked about in lesson 1A.4. We talked about midpoints and bisectors. Well, now we are applying that to the coordinate plane. So I'm going to remind you that a midpoint was it's just a point halfway between two other points. That's kind of a short way of saying it. Halfway between two other points, okay? And so when we put that first just on a number line, the way we find the midpoint is just to average the two numbers. Sorry, numbers. I'll spell correctly for this video, maybe. All right, we're going to take the average. Remember, that means we add the two x's and divide by 2, because there's two of them. For on a number line, that's what we do. We just find the average. So what's the midpoint between 3 and 15? We're going to add those. Doesn't matter the order. Divide by 2. So 3 plus 15 is 18. Divided by 2. Okay, 18 divided by 2 is 9. So 9 would be halfway between 3 and 15. Okay, midpoint between negative 8 and 2. Again, the negatives shouldn't matter to us. We're going to add the same. I say they don't matter, but we just work and calculate with the negatives. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. The point negative 3 would be halfway between negative 8 and 2. And we can do the same thing with number 3. I want you to try that one, and then we will kind of check that answer in class. But in the video here, we're going to move on and talk about the midpoint on the coordinate plane. Now, as we move on to talking about the midpoint in the coordinate plane, it's really the same information, but we have x coordinates and y coordinates. Okay, so for any ordered pair where we have x for the x coordinate, and then the second number is the y. Okay, those ordered pairs there in that form means we're just going to have two sets of averages. To find the x coordinate of a midpoint, we just take the average of the x's, and for the y coordinate of the midpoint, we do the average of the y's. Okay, and so we do have a formula we use for that. Here's your midpoint formula that is important to memorize. Okay, since it's the average of the x's, we're just using this for the x's. We do x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, and the same thing for the y's. y1 plus y2 over 2. And that's if I give you the coordinates of 2 points and I want to find the midpoint between them. So let's go ahead and take a look at our set of examples. So in these examples, we are going to be given that M is the midpoint of some segment AB. I could even draw that out if it would help you see that. There's A, there's B, M is in the middle. And that's the midpoint. So we're going to understand that, but we're going to use the coordinates to find these midpoints across this top row. But you'll notice on the bottom row, or the next row, 7 through 9, I'm giving you the coordinates of M, the midpoint, and a coordinate of one of the endpoints, and we're looking for the missing endpoint. Okay, so these problems are going to be called missing endpoint problems. Okay, missing endpoints, and those are going to be done a little bit differently. But first of all, for these, we're just going to find the midpoint using our formula for each of these. So we're going to find the average of our x's between A and B. That's negative 3 plus 1 all over 2, because we're adding them up, divide by 2. That's how you find the average. And then the average of the y's, 4 plus 8 over 2. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. We're going to divide that by 2. And 4 plus 8 is 12. So our final final midpoint coordinates would be negative 1, 6 when you divide. Okay? I want you to pause the video here. I want you to hit pause and try and do these next two, 5 and 6, on your own, and then we will check our answers. Okay, if you need more time, like I said, pause the video, keep it paused. Otherwise, these are the answers you should get, all right? For number 5, you do get decimal values. Those are okay to have, because whenever I do 2 plus 7, okay, that's an odd number 9, all right? So what we're saying is that the halfway point is at 4.5. It's between 4 and 5, right? They're halfway between 4 and 5. Same thing for the y values. That's a y value for my midpoint of negative 2.5. So the coordinates of m here are 4.5 comma negative 2.5. And here, on number 6, we get 3, 7. All right, as we look at number 7, now we are given the coordinates of A, and we are missing the endpoint B, but we have the coordinates of the midpoint. So I actually want us to draw this out. This one's going to be done a little bit differently, like I said. I actually want you to draw this out. This is not how it would look on a coordinate plane, but it is going to be helpful for us to keep track of our work. All right, and so what we have here, I want you to do this in a couple ways, all right? I'm going to color code this to try and help us out. So my x's, I'm going to write in blue. So the x coordinates of A, or the x coordinate of A is 2, and the x coordinate of m is 0. So on my number line, you can imagine where 0 and 2 are on a number line. Those are only 2 apart. Okay, it actually would be the other direction. 0 would be in the middle, 2 would be over here. But don't worry about how it actually lines up on a number line. Just know these are 2 apart. So if these are 2 apart, 2 is greater than 0 by 2, right? So if I'm counting this direction to go to the middle, from 2 to 0, I'm actually subtracting 2, right? 2 minus 2 would equal 0. Because this is the middle, I can repeat that step from 0. So I can minus another 2 from 0 to get to this coordinate, which 0 minus 2 would be negative 2. So we're thinking of this as the fact that 0 is halfway between 2 and some other number, and we're just finding what that number is. And so the coordinates of B would be negative 2, because this distance from 2 to 0 is going down 2 or subtracting 2, so I'm going to repeat that distance to the next side. We're going to do the same thing for our y values. Okay, the y value of A is 4. The y value of m in the middle is negative 2. So to go from 4 to negative 2 on a number line, we'd go 4 to 0, that's 4 units, and then down another 2, so 4 and 2, that's negative 6. So to go from 4 to negative 2, I would subtract 6. So to go from negative 2 to my endpoint for B, for the y's, I'm going to subtract another 6. Negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. Okay, so we're just kind of talking about how we would count on a number line. So my answer is the point negative 2, negative 8. Those are the coordinates of B. All right, so we're just counting. Let's try that again. So as we look at this one, again, I want you to draw out a number line. If we can simplify our work a little bit, we will. M is in the middle of A and B. M is the midpoint, so I can say it's in the middle. But this time, they give you the coordinates of B. We give you the x value is negative 1, the y value is 0. For m, the x value is 2, y value is negative 4. So again, we just want to count our differences between the x's and the y's. And we want to repeat those differences on the same or on the other side. So this time I'm kind of moving back this direction from my endpoint through the midpoint to get to the next one. So as I look at the x's, from negative 1 to 2, think about that on a number line. Negative 1 and 2 would be 3 apart. And since I'm going this direction, getting bigger as I go to the left, negative 1, we would have to add 3 to get up to 2. So I'm going to repeat that step. 2 plus 3 is 5. So there's my x coordinate for A. Same thing for my y values. From 0 up, or sorry, down in this case to negative 4 is a loss of 4. It's a minus 4. We would have to do 0 minus 4 to get negative 4. So then I'm going to do that again to get this other coordinate. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. All right, so my answer for the coordinates of A are 5, -8. All right? Okay, we will do another one of these. If you want to try and do number 9 in class, okay, we're dealing with some decimals. I'm sorry, do number 9 before coming to class. You can give that a try. Otherwise, let's go ahead and take a look at number 10 together. All right, if you want to try number 9 on your own, you can, but let's take a look at number 10. So for number 10, I've given you 2 coordinates, and I want you to find a point that is 1/3 of the way from x to y. Now, we don't have a formula for 1/3 of the way. We have a midpoint formula for half the way, but not 1/3 of the way. So it really is important to draw this out, okay, from x all the way to y. But now I'm not going to split it with a midpoint. I'm not going to put m in the middle. I'm actually going to split this into 3 equal pieces. Okay, so there's a point and there's a point, creating 3 equal pieces. All right? What we want to do is kind of do the same thing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my x coordinates on top and my y coordinates on bottom to give myself a little more room. So the x coordinate of this first point x is 3. The x coordinate of this last point is 15. All right? The y coordinate of this first point is -10, and the y coordinate of the last point is -8. So let's look at our overall distances. To go from 3 to 15 on a number line, those are 12 apart, and we're going from 3 up to 15, so that was a total of plus 12. Okay? For our y values, from -10 to -8, those are only 2 apart. Okay? So I'm only going up from -10 to -8 is still a plus 2. So those are, as far as I'm counting, in that direction. All right? And so we want to take those distances and divide them into thirds, meaning divide by 3. So for this one, I'm going to do 1/3 of 12, or 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So it's like each one of these little sections is 4 more than the last. So I'm going to do 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 to get up to 15 if I'm doing it 3 times. That helps me know that the point 1/3 of the way from x to y, right here, has an x coordinate of 3 plus 4, which is 7. Okay? Now to go from my y values here all the way over, that's just a plus 2, so I've got to take that distance of 2 and divide it into thirds, which is just 2/3. Okay, that's a decimal of about 0.6 repeating, or 0.67, so it's 2/3. I'm just going to add 2/3 from there to there. So this is where it gets a little tricky with the decimals. Again, I'm going to add 2/3, add 2/3, add 2/3. So for this first one of adding 2/3 to -10, since we're taking a negative number plus a positive number, we're going almost over to -9, but not quite. This would equal -9 1/3. -10 plus 2/3 is -9 1/3. So that's my y value there. All right, so my answer for the coordinates of this point 1/3 of the way between these 2 points, x and y, is 7. Sorry about that. Comma, -9 1/3. Okay, we will try these next two, 11 and 12. We'll actually do these again in class because with the fractions it can be a little tricky, but we'll talk about this again. Make sure you have this much of your notes done, and we will continue this lesson in class.